This is the place that you find a voice you don't hear elsewhere, a voice of reform, a voice of modernity, a voice of an American Muslim who believes, as I've told you week to week, who believes that we have a Muslim problem that can only have a Muslim solution. We talk about the things that are not covered in other places. You can come here to get the status report, the reform report of where we are in the battle against radical Islam, of where we are in national security, of where we are in the threats across the Middle East, domestically and abroad, not only against ISIS, but against the ideologies that fuel them. And as we learned this week with the President's State of the Union, we can review and look that, well, ISIS is on the way out and it's gone, but did we defeat the ideology? And this is the place I hope you come to realize that we have a lot of work ahead. So thank you for being back. If you're new, I hope you come back. I hope you realize that you get some nutrition here for the soul, some nutrition for your American citizenship, that we can come together as one in keeping our country safe. And, that's the theme I wanted to start on today is, what does it mean? What does it mean to come together as one? What does it mean to be united? To be united across partisan lines, across the aisle? Is that possible, or does every president represent a polarization of that party's worst or best characteristics? Is it possible for the other party to stand up and cheer ideas that it agrees with simply because it agrees with those ideas, and it doesn't matter who the speaker is, and it doesn't matter the fact that that might give the other side some points of victory, partisan victory? And I think when we talk about reform, that's something that we take it all, we'll work. I hear Americans in Washington, New York, across the country say, we're going to work with Muslims who share our values, whether it be feminists, whether it be gay rights activists. We want them to share the ideas of universal freedom, universal human rights. And yet, in our own house in America, we find a president who's described as divisive and other issues, and yet, when he gives a State of the Union, I have to tell you, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is, during his State of the Union, there were things said that I thought everybody would be cheering for. I pulled out some quotes that I think represent, regardless of who said them, represent what everybody should have been cheering for. The president said that let's set aside the issues that you and I focus on, from national security, religious reform, etc. He said the jobless rates are the lowest ever, especially for the African American community. It's seen the lowest in 40 years. For Hispanics and other minorities also. Why wouldn't they stand for that? And I think that shows where people say, why are you having so many obstacles in the work that you do, Zudi? Why can't you get traction? Well, when the focus in Washington, when the focus is about divisiveness, how do we use identity politics? How do we use minority politics as a club across the head of the other party? It's almost impossible to make advance. It becomes the party of resistance rather than the party of bringing America to success and moving forward. The president said, as he talked about the unification of the ideas of who we are as Americans, he reminded us of who we are, as why we stand proudly for our national anthem. And that was looked at as a poke in the eye. Well, if you look at the polls, yes, Colin Kaepernick and all these others, they have rights to express themselves, and they can do so at various times. But the issue of the national anthem we've talked about here. It's a time that we come together.